my name is Muffy. I'm a design lead on Big Blue, which is a show about black joy and protecting the ocean. I've been in animation for about 5 years now, and I've worked in a few departments, from character animation to effects animation to design for props and effects and character, and also comp. I've worked on shows like Curious George, Care Bears Unlock the Magic, and If You Give a Mouse a Cookie, Pickle and Peanut. A lot of shows that I can't talk about, but maybe someday I'd really love to show the work I've done on them. At the end of this presentation, I will be showing a few of my pieces from Care Bears Unlock the Magic when I talk about portfolio work and the different kinds of advice and things I specifically look for when I'm hiring. So we'll get to that when we get to it. So I wanted to talk a little bit about my animation journey. I want to start by saying that I know there are a lot of heartbreaking stories about people of color navigating their way through the animation industry, and I'm not trying to invalidate any negative industry experiences from other people of color with mine. I feel like it's very, very important that we even get to hear them, and I feel like there will always be challenges for people who look like me in a mostly white industry, but I feel like I should share a story for people who don't know if they could make it and who are having trouble finding their first industry job and just need to hear that, that there's definitely a way, despite all the hurdles. So this is a story for black kids who want to break in but aren't sure if they'll fit in, and I just wanted to let them know that they definitely deserve to exist in this space and that animation desperately needs more marginalized voices. So without further ado, I started my animation journey in 2012. I went to Sheridan between 2012 to 2016. And if I'm recalling correctly, I was the only black girl in my year. And I didn't get a job right out of college. I remember I was kind of all over the place in my portfolio. Maybe it was more suited to illustration or something, because I only had one turnaround. I didn't have a prop sheet, and a lot of it was character illustration, if I'm remembering. My animation reel is ultimately what landed me a job. I think it was like, in Canada you have 10 months before you have to start paying your student loans. And I think it was literally on the 10th month when I landed a job from Copernicus Studios in Nova Scotia. And since there weren't many jobs in Toronto at the time, I decided to go for it. So I'm sure a lot of you don't know about Canadian geography, but I moved from Toronto, which is one of the biggest cultural hubs, if not the biggest cultural hub in Canada, to the least diverse place I'd ever moved, ever lived, rather. It was super jarring because I'd often go weeks and weeks before I saw another person with dark skin, and I felt really out of place. I just remember feeling alone, and even though I was making friends, it didn't feel like home. I found myself missing stuff like going to Korean barbecue, for example, or like just like seeing things I used to see in Toronto that made me feel like I was in a place with other people who didn't have strictly white experiences, if you know what I mean. So I think about maybe 3 months into working at Copernicus, they hired another black girl, and we got along like right away because we bonded over Kirby. I think she had one on her desk. So her and I became fast friends, and then there was another guy. His name was Berkeley. I love these guys. just thinking about them. I remember when I moved away, I told him I was gonna be working on Big Blue, and he was like, "What? I saw when that show got announced in 2016 or whatever on Tumblr," and I was like, "What? I didn't even know." And he was like, "Do you think they'd hire me?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course they'd hire you." I don't know if he actually ended up applying, or if he's even still in Halifax. Maybe I should try to touch base with him again. But anyway, having people around like him and like Aaron made my time in Halifax a lot more tolerable. But despite that, I was on Give 'Em As a Cookie as a character animator, and I learned that year that it wasn't really for me. I remember it was Halloween, and I was wearing a Luigi costume, because of course I was, and I was just like, I don't know if I can do this for a whole year. And I had a check-in with my animation director, and I let him know that I wasn't really enjoying my job, and he asked me if I was interested in FX. I knew FX would mean I'd have a lot more opportunities to hand draw, so I said yes. And changing gears really saved my sanity that year. I learned so much about Toon Boom, and the day-to-day felt way more manageable, and I felt like way more connected with my coworkers. On the animation floor, there were just so many of us, and no one ever talked, but the effects and retakes department specifically, we were in a small office, so we got to chat it up a lot, which is nice. Oh yeah, and I was doing effects, but I also got to do a lot of animation retakes, which I felt I was more suited for at that point, because I learned a lot about like the node view in Toon Boom, and just like all of the technical nitty-gritty. But anyway, Copernicus, about a year into working there, they started hiring internally for Care Bears Unlock the Magic, for star artists and 2D designers. So I was like, I'm gonna apply to both, because of course I was, because I knew that I liked effects, but I wasn't sure if I was gonna stay in it. So I was like, well, if I get one of them, that'll be a new thing for me to experience. So I applied for both. This is an example of the story test I did, which I still think is nice. And this is an example of the kind of stuff I had in my portfolio at the time for design. I don't think I had any proper turnarounds or anything. Maybe just one. I think I had one. But I had a lot of posing sheets and emotions, character stuff. I actually ended up getting both, which surprised me. I remember the dopamine levels were off the chart that day. But I didn't know which one I should pick because I felt like boarding, I might be able to get into it again if I went for a revisionist position or something. And I remember in college, my professors always told me that 2D design jobs are so rare, like, you guys should stop trying to shoot for them because you'll never get one. And I was like, well, okay. But because I had this opportunity, I was like, you know what, heck it, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna be a designer. So I said yes to the design job. So I remember, because it was my first design job ever, I was super nervous. I remember thinking like every day I was gonna get fired, even though there was no indication at all that I was getting, no one ever talked to me about it. Every time I had a peer review, it was very positive. But regardless, the first few months were extremely rough for me. I remember I was working on like a really big effect. It was like what the whole episode was leading up to, and I was just getting revision after revision after revision. It was getting so stressful, and my AD was a really nice guy. He was very sweet. But despite that, I was really beating myself up because I felt like I couldn't get it right. But meanwhile, it was just the direction was changing a lot, and that can be super stressful. And I feel like the instruction wasn't super clear. But it basically got to a point that I think the turnaround for that show was a week or 2 weeks per episode, and I was getting really close to the deadline on that effect, and I kept having to redo it. And I remember my AD called me in to look at it, and while he was scrolling through my layers, he saw one labeled "Kill Me," and he was needless to say very worried about me. And I like broke down in his office because I didn't realize how overwhelmed I was at the time, I guess. I told him, and yes, I told him I was feeling overwhelmed. That it was stressful for me because like I felt like I was getting the most props and effects and characters out of everybody else. I feel like I got the least fun work to do. I often had to handle like the mechanical stuff, and everyone else got like books and the cute characters. And he ended up apologizing to me and admitting that he felt like I was the most suited for the difficult work because I grasped the show style the best and had the fastest turnaround and least revisions. He told me that he had considered me a lead and that I was a pillar of the team, and I ended up getting a raise, and he took our team out to lunch, and he told everybody that he appreciated them, and it was really nice. And I wish I had just spoken to him sooner about it, just like even asked for a raise. I know I was super afraid because I was like, I can't mess up this opportunity. But meanwhile, the whole time because I was a very quiet person in my first few years of doing animation, I guess they just assumed it was cool. I was not cool. So in retrospect, I want to say, if you ever find yourself in a situation where you're like super stressed out about the work you have to do, you should just talk to your supervisors or HR about better distributing workload and stuff like that, because I don't feel like it should ever get that bad. before, you get a raise, or before your AD is like, oh geez, I shouldn't have done that. But anyway, yeah. Sorry. Yes, you shouldn't let it get so bad that you're bawling in front of your AD. But I finished Care Bears without another hitch. I think there was a couple months in between where they had me move to be a effects supervisor and comp artist, because the comp artist on the show had left to do something else. So I was teaching the juniors how to use track code particular in After Effects, and also just the show style for a couple months. Then I got moved back onto design to finish off the season. And at the end of it all, I took a couple weeks for vacation, and then they moved me onto Curious George as an senior effects artist. And at that point, I knew my heart wasn't really in effects. I really liked the work I got to do on Care Bears, so I decided to apply for some design work out of province. I was like, you know what, maybe I can move back home, because I really miss eating dim sum and seeing other black people. So I was applying to be a production designer. I feel like this is super important. When you're looking at like what the application needs, I didn't have the years of experience necessarily in design, but I was like, I could do it. I feel like it's important to believe in yourself. You shouldn't select yourself, self-select out of running for a job you think you could do or that you're passionate about, because chances are you'll get hired or get an interview, and if you don't, well, the worst thing that happened is that you didn't get the job. So you can always try again, and it's really important to put yourself out there. So yes, so I ended up getting the job. I drove back. It was an 18-hour drive. My car broke down once, but I think my dog had a great time. And when I got there, it was great. I'm working at Guru Studio in Toronto now. My AD is a huge advocate for all of us, all of the people who work under him. I mean, me and the other designers. So I did a really good job on the show. Still am, but at the time, I remember I was taking up a lot of pickups from the other artists, and getting things approved faster. So he advocated for me to get a raise and to get a title increase, because of the type of work I was doing. It was basically lead work, and I was doing a lot of organizational stuff and attending meetings. So he was like, I mean, you're basically there. I was like, yeah, right, so give me the job. So I've been a design lead for the past, I think it's almost been a year now, which is super exciting. So I've been super lucky, I feel, in my I just totally lost my train of thought. I've been super lucky in the type of work I've been able to do. I feel like every single job I've done has informed the next job I've done in very, very, very serious, specific ways. Like, I don't think I'd be a production designer right now if I was never an animator, or if I never was an effects artist, because all of my Toon Boom experience really came in handy for me to teach the other artists about how to use Toon Boom and stuff like that. And I've been lucky enough that this year, as in the past 12 months, I've become a design lead. I started pitching, and I'm even moonlighting as a character designer, and I have another production designer job lined up in a couple months, which I'm super stressed out about, but it'll be fine. I mean, you know, moonlighting is stressful because basically working 2 jobs. So, but I did want to say about pitching. I've pitched a few times last year, and it's interesting because when I was chatting with some executives, they were telling me that studios are actually looking to hear more diverse stories. So, if you have cool stories, you should definitely see if you can pitch places. And I think that animation is changing in a good way. A lot of side jobs I've been offered lately have been for creating and consulting on Black character designs, which has been extremely exciting. And even though my story isn't all happy, I've had people put faith in me from beginning to end, and the only reason I was able to be in character animation and effects design and comp and, you know, all the things I ever did in animation, it's because someone decided to give me a chance the whole way through. And especially when I went in not knowing what the job was at all, and they let me have a try anyway. So even though there are a lot of heartbreaking stories out there, I really feel like animation really needs people like us specifically to tell interesting and diverse stories and to be involved in creative processes. So without further ado, what everyone is probably here for, these are my portfolio recommendations. I've had the absolute pleasure of helping with hiring from time to time, and when I've looked at portfolios, I've always looked for some very specific things. So I just want to tell you guys how we select what kind of portfolios we're going to look into and the type of people we're going to talk to when we see their work. So but keep in mind this is for TV, not film. I'm not sure exactly what film looks for, so, and I've never worked in film, so, you know, just some disclaimers off the top. So first off, for character and prop design, turnarounds are super, super important. This one is from Care Bears. The turnarounds on that show were pretty tight because it was a preschool show and the actions in animation were pretty slow. They wanted it to, you know, turn correctly. On a lot of older shows for like kids 8 to 11 and plus, the turnarounds might not be so tight because the actions are faster. So I'd say your turnarounds don't always have to be this tight, but they need to definitely look appealing no matter what angle you present. I think that's my third example, but okay, this one. So, this dog was a background character, I believe, and so she doesn't turn correctly, like her ears are all different angles, but it's what we decided because of, we didn't want to cover the eye on the 3/4 back, and we liked this kind of angle. It didn't look exactly like straight on, so we decided to tilt them in the profile, and it is like a slight 3/4 profile because of the leg placement. I think that turn-ons like this are appealing. I think that if you have a turnaround that doesn't track correctly and you have a turnaround that is tight, that only says really great things about you and your design sensibilities. So this is a prop turnaround. I also included a couple of views you might see, like book on the table, the book is open, and also who holds the book, which is my cute little dog character here, Nick. I feel like something that a lot of people who haven't done design work before is they don't include the context with the prop. So, like, I don't see how big the lunchbox is, for example, or how it looks next to the character who's supposed to be holding it. Oh, and this is design work for, I know, like, in LA specifically, they have color stylists who do the first color passes and you don't do color at all. But the shows I've worked on have all had us do temp color or the final color, depending on how much money the show has. So I think it doesn't hurt to include color, but you could also have some just lines with the red choice line also. Depending on what you're trying to get hired. I feel like that would be smart. So, just as a recap, tight turnaround that's specifically for appeal. Prop turnarounds also super important. It's like all you do when you're a designer. Just turnarounds every day, all day. And okay, this example was because I couldn't show any of my 3D examples, but when you're working on shows that are 3D rather, you should do an orthographic view, which is the exact front and the exact side and the exact top of an object, because they need to take it into modeling, right? So for a lot of my 2D work, we don't do exact profiles, we do like slightly turned profiles because it's more appealing and you still understand what the object is when it's turned slightly. Yeah, all the shows I've worked on, they've wanted a slight turn to profile views. But when you're working for 3D, they like the exact views, because when it goes into modeling, you know. So, also bottom views if they have to pick them up, or like if it's a car, you never know if you see the bottom of a car. Okay, and effects. When you're presenting effects in a portfolio, I feel like it's really important to show like the beginning and the end of how it works, and where it's going and who's making it. For example, well, it's not always a who, sometimes it's like a car or like a place, like it's coming out of clouds, because it's thunder or something. But you don't need a beginning and an end if it's something that's like continuous in a shot, like a stream of water, for example. Just one image should be enough. So this effect is a light beam. I feel like a lot of shows lately are really leaning into like light effects, which is cool. They're my favorite ones to do. So I wanted this beam to have an impact flame, and because we had already established what all of the what are they called? The Care Bear stairs. We already established what all the Care Bear stairs would look like. I wanted this one to be special because it was like Good Luck was at like its full potential because it was in like a place with shamrocks or something. So I wanted the beam this time to have an impact flame, and I had just shown the steps of how I wanted the impact to look, because I still wanted it to have all of the 4-leaf clovers in it. And another example of, having a beginning, middle, and end, and the context, which is super, super important. Just to see like size and who it's for and all that stuff. I don't think I ever got something approved if I didn't have context with it. So here we have I want to say a sand rooster tail. I feel like that's what these are called. Like when a car drives through snow or whatever, or water, they make rooster tails. So I was tasked to do this effect. And these are just like how it looks when it begins, when it's in the middle of when it's driving the fastest. I didn't feel like I needed to do an ending because I felt like this, you could just like bring it back down to this. But I also wanted to show what the dust looks like, because I didn't feel like it was super evident in my example here. So I just did a close-up of like what I wanted the particles to look like in it, and like the type of fade out. So there you go. I'm trying to think if there's any other things I forgot. When you're doing character design, I feel like those expression sheets are very important as well. Shows that you know how to move a character around too, while still making them look like the same character. If the studio you're planning to work for, if you know that they do a lot of like puppet animation, for example, you should probably include mouth charts and hand charts. If you don't know what those are, I'm just gonna bring up my portfolio real quick. I was considering getting examples from other people, but I didn't want people to think I was like, I don't know, stealing their work for this or something. I wanted to ask permission, is what I wanted to say, but it's like a week before the thing now, and I don't want to bother anyone. So timelines. Because a lot of studios in Canada are places that do animation for other places, like a lot of our clients are from LA, but we do a lot of puppet work. I was like, I'm going to do blink charts, because that's something I've done for Care Bears as well, and mouth charts and hand charts, just showing the different hands a character might go through, and a sheet of emotions, which I feel like they obviously show a lot more character than just the flat turnaround, even though like I'm really looking for turnarounds to see that you know what the job is. It's essentially doing this like 100 times ad nauseum. But when I see stuff like this, I'm like, okay, they know how to bring character also. Oh, and I love seeing stuff like this when you bring me all the way to the end of how you think through a character, because like a lot of first passes are like, do you want this or this? And then, you know, your AD picks this one, and then you're like, okay, so I'm gonna bring it to final then. And it just shows like a bit of your design process, which I think is a really cool thing as well. These ones are kind of old, so I'm not gonna go into it. But yeah, I hope that was helpful. When I do this live also, I'd love to hear questions. And why is this happening? If you have questions for me about design or breaking in, or you know, anything animation related, I'd of course love to help. My email is always open. I don't like actually saying what my email is, even though it's probably super obvious. But you can email me through my portfolio. There's a contact sheet on there, and I'll always get back to you. Or at least I'll try, unless I get like a huge flood of emails, then, you know, I'll do my best. Even if it's not super timely, I'll try my best. I definitely love helping people out, especially when it comes to trying to break in. I know it was really tough for me. I wish I had spoken to anybody about this stuff that I was hoping to get into at the time. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to say. Oh yeah, okay. I think the most important takeaway from my animation journey is that you might not end up getting the design job you really, really wanted right out of college, but that isn't really a failing on your part. I feel like any job you get in animation informs the next job you get and the job you really want. Like if you ever want to be a showrunner, I feel like it's only a plus if you know what your animators have to go through to make your show happen. Or anyone on your show in any part of the pipeline. I feel like I've been really, like, I think at the time I may have been disappointed, but I feel really, really blessed in retrospect. I feel like every aspect of anything I ever did for animation was extremely important. And that's it. I hope that was insightful and maybe a little inspiring, just a little bit. Yeah.